Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. So today we're going to be talking about something that's pretty special to me, and that is the PlayStation 3. Now I know a lot of people look down on the PS3, especially at launch, but I really believe that this console was one of the best consoles that came out this century, and let me explain why. So let's start off right at the beginning. When it first came out, it wasn't exactly something that was on my radar. I mean, I was still in secondary school at the time. I was in the last year, however, and I was more focused on getting my exams done, so gaming wasn't exactly a massive priority. But when I did have some time, I was still rocking on the PS2. My family didn't really have the money to drop on a console just like that, and at the time it was £425, so there was absolutely no way I'd be able to get one. The only way that I could get a console was if I saved up, and you know what I did? I did just that. I saved up consistently every month until I had enough money. The only problem with that is that by the time I had enough money, they announced the slim model, which at the time I was like, I'd have rather had the original. However, I don't really mind about the whole backwards compatibility. That wasn't exactly something that I was interested in. I had a PS2 and I played the hell out of that. I wanted to see what the future was going to bring. And so, when I had all the money saved up, I grabbed my PS2, whatever games I had accumulated, and also had a steering wheel that I used to play with the PS2 on. Side note about that, it was absolutely filthy, because I barely used it. It was just caked in dust. But give that a good clean, and I took it to Cash Converters, which is a second-hand shop based in the UK. Now, it has been a very long time, and I can't exactly remember how much I got for it, but it must have been about £100 for everything. I had enough money to buy a brand new PS3 Slim, and a couple of games for it, from my local Argos, and oh my god, when I got it, I was buzzing. It was literally the first console that I bought myself that was brand new, and coming from a pretty poor family, the feeling that you get buying something brand new is like no other. No hand-me-downs, nothing like that. I earned it. I saved up for a very long time, and I was really proud of myself, and the console was 100% worth it.
Nico, my cousin! I can't believe it, you're here! Welcome to America! Bravo, What?
The first game I actually got was GTA 4. Absolutely fantastic game that was. Now, I already had a little experience playing on it, as my cousin had the original fat PS3 and got the game the year before. I got my PS3 probably around November or December 2009, and GTA came out back in 2008. So I know how to play some bits of it. It was pretty much just like free roam stuff, like shooting and some driving around. Nothing exciting. But once I actually had the game myself, I wanted to play the game in its entirety. I dread to think how many hours I put into that game. Oof, probably about 70-80 hours in a week. It was actually mental, but I managed to complete the story probably twice before I got bored of it.
What's going on?
Also, another game that I bought with it was Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, which was one of the brand new games at the time. Now, I knew absolutely nothing about the game. I never saw a trailer or anything like that. All I saw was the box art. But when I popped the disc in and I loaded it up, I was hooked. The amount of cinematography that game produced, you literally felt like you was controlling a movie. The train level at the start was just bonkers. I'd never seen anything like that in my entire life. So going from playing Tony Hawk on the PS2 to this was like night and day. No shade on Tony Hawk games, by the way. Literally, I remember playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. Literally, that's my childhood peak there. Literally pure nostalgia. For the first 2 to 3 years, everything was all fine and dandy. I bought the games that I liked, and I had a blast playing them. But this is also where I started to notice a few little things. Now, during those years, I managed to purchase an Xbox 360, and I was always back and forth on them, trying out different games. And while being pretty poor, there was often times I'd have to trade in a game to buy others, and it got to the point where I'd miss one game from one console and ended up buying it back again for another console once I had enough money. It probably doesn't make much sense to some, but I was really into playing Call of Duty at the time, so I had to get the latest one whenever it came out. Literally, on release day, I had to get it. Side note, I actually miss midnight launches. They were like one of the best things ever. You could grab your game straight away as soon as it comes out, get home, play on it for hours, and then regret it in the morning. But yeah, I wish they'd bring them back. But anyway, I'd end up buying a game on the 360 and it would run as smooth as butter. But then if I bought it again on the PS3, I noticed that the performance was all over the place. It was actually quite noticeable. But back then, I wasn't as much of a nerd as I am now, and I didn't know why it was doing that, and it even got to the point where I thought my PS3 was dying. But in reality, it was just how the cell architecture was extremely difficult for the publishers to tap into its full potential of the processor. And while it eventually worked out and the games ended up performing the same or even better, it was too little too late, and the announcements for the PS4 and the Xbox One were on the horizon. The PS3 eventually caught up in sales compared to the Xbox 360, however, especially with the whole red ring of death. The amount of people that was buying 360s was ridiculous. They literally just bought them. Instead of taking them to Xbox themselves and getting a replacement, they'd just buy another console because the kids were moaning too much. It's just how it was back then. But to this day, I still believe that if the cell processor was explained a little bit better to the video game creators more clearly, I believe that the Xbox 360 would have been completely buried, and potentially the video game industry would be completely different to what it is now.
For the last 6 days, users of Sony's PlayStation network have been greeted instead by error messages. The electronics giant says it's shut down the service, which is used by 75 million people worldwide.
Another thing that I remember was the whole PSN hack back in 2011. The old infamous outage that lasted over 3 weeks. And the amount of hatred that Sony got for it was absolutely mental. During those times of the outage, it didn't really affect me as much. I was actually building up my social life. I was going out a lot more, so gaming was pretty much a secondary thing for me back then. However, when it came to burning a few hours while I was waiting to meet someone, I'd have to play a single player game only. It was the only choice I had. And it kind of sucked, but you know, first world problems. They did however fix everything, and as some sort of compensation, they gave everyone 2 games. Now, I can only remember the one game that I picked up, and that was Dead Nation, which was like a top-down zombie shooter game. It was actually something I was tempted to buy anyway, but I got it for free, so that's a bonus. And they tightened up all their security, and as far as I know, they've not had any issues since. Obviously they've had a few issues, but nothing in comparison to what was happening back then. So in conclusion, the PlayStation 3 means a lot to me. It was my primary console during my late teenage years. And yes, I had a 360 as well. However, I bought most of my games on the PS3 because I'm a massive PS fanboy. I still am to this day. I've got a PS5, PS4 and a PS3. I don't have a PS2 and PS1 anymore, but obviously I might get them in the future. Some of my favourite games that came out for the PS3 was obviously the Call of Duty series, which I mentioned before, especially Black Ops 1 and 2. I'd say probably 2 more than 1, but definitely the Call of Duty series. There was Gran Turismo 5 and Gran Turismo 6. I played more of Gran Turismo 5, literally spent about 500 hours on that game, maybe even more. Didn't play as much Gran Turismo 6 though, because I felt that it was a very similar game, so I didn't really invest as much time into it. There was also Grand Theft Auto 4 and Grand Theft Auto 5. Now I know that Grand Theft Auto 5 was literally at the end of the PS3 life cycle, and I also did buy it on the PS4 when that came out, but I did complete it on the PS3. There was Far Cry 3, literally amazing game, which made me get all the Far Cry's since. There was The Last of Us, and obviously the Uncharted series, which in my opinion was the absolute peak of the PS3 graphics. I don't know any other games that look as good as the Uncharted series did. Right, well I've been rambling for way too long now, so I'm going to wrap it all up. I hope you like this video anyway. I really enjoyed taking a trip back to the past and remembering some of the old times that I had with all the consoles back when, you know, things were quite interesting. Obviously it's not as interesting now. Console comes out, whoop-de-doo, not much difference from the last one. But anyway, if you did like this video, please give it a like and let me know in the comments some of the memories that you had, some of the games that you used to play, and just, you know, any old nostalgia. I'm really interested in what other people think. So I'm going to shoot off, and I will see you next time. Bye!